Yo, what's good, everyone? Welcome to the Fantasy Football Prodigy Podcast. My name is Tyler Anderson. I'm your host. Just realized I don't need these headphones that I'm wearing. Today is October 8th, 2024. I am recording this at night. So by the time I post this, it'll probably be late Tuesday, October 8th, or early Wednesday, October 9th. Just in case, news breaks or things change. But in this episode, we are going to be recapping week 5 of the 2024 fantasy football season. But before we do that, please make sure to follow or subscribe wherever you are enjoying the podcast. And if you do want video for the podcast, you can head over to Fantasy Football Prodigy on YouTube. And you can see my beautiful face, and you can see SpongeBob back there as well. We're just chilling, talking football. So we're just going to go game by game. Let's start with the Jets and the Vikings. So I already recapped the Thursday game from last week on a different episode earlier. You can check that out. It should be in the title. But we're going to do the Sunday and the Monday games here. So the first game of Sunday was my Minnesota Vikings taking on the New York Jets. The Vikings were technically the home team, but this game was in London. And the Vikings, Skull baby, my team, dude, 5-0. One of two undefeated teams remaining. They took down the Jets 23-17. It got a little bit dicier at the end. The Jets made it somewhat interesting. But my Vikings did hold off, and the defense just looks incredible. Sam Darnold in this one, who had been, really great for fantasy and for football. He had a few mistakes here and there, and he had another bad pick in this game, if I remember correctly. But he was only 14 of 31, 179 yards, no touchdowns, one pick. He didn't look great. The Jets have a pretty good defense. And then on top of that, Aaron Jones left this game early, 7 for 29 and a touchdown. No touchdown. I don't know why I said a touchdown. 7 for 29, no touchdowns, 1 for 24 through the air. I believe the Vikings have their bye week coming up, so he will have some time to heal up a little bit, but that was unfortunate for anyone who did start Aaron Jones. I believe it was a hip injury. He's considered week to week. Ty Chandler is going to be a name to monitor if he gets some time to start. I've mentioned him before on the podcast, but he was the clear backup. But I said Aaron Jones has a history of injuries. He's getting older, and if and when he misses time, Ty Chandler is going to step up and be the guy. So if Jones' injury is prolonged and he misses some games, Ty Chandler is going to be the starter, and he's going to be good for fantasy. In the receiver game, Justin Jefferson, he was 6 for 92 on 14 targets, but this guy, he had to have drawn like 5 pass interference flags or something. And dude, he was dominating. Okay. 6 for 92. He was the wide receiver 22 on the week in half PPR with 12.2 points, but he's just a stud. He was giving them fits. They were holding him all over the place. And it just makes you think maybe you should get a point if, a player draws a pass interference penalty, because he was impacting the game like crazy. Jordan Addison, 3 for 36, was the next leading receiver. And after that, really nothing of note. And then for the Jets, Aaron Rodgers, 29 of 54 passing attempts, 244 yards, 2 touchdowns, but 3 picks. He was a quarterback 18 on the week with 14.8 points. He made some plays, but he had some mistakes in this game too. Another really disappointing game from Breece Hall. 9 for 23 on the ground, and then 3 for 14 through the air on 4 targets. He was a running back 42 on the week with 5.2 points. You're going to keep starting him, but until this offense clicks and until they can block a little better, I don't know if that's going to happen. But until that happens, and if it does, it's going to be rough. I will say though, so week 4 he had 2.8 points. Week 5 he had 5.2 points. I will say they were taking on the Denver Broncos and the Minnesota Vikings, 2 very good defenses. So there are better matchups ahead. Don't overreact to Breece Hall. Obviously, there is some concern there that he's not going to be an every week just stud, just because the offense does have some downside, but you're going to keep starting him no matter what. And then Garrett Wilson had himself an insane game. 22 targets. That's a real stat. 22 targets, 13 catches for 101 and a touchdown. If you streamed Tyler Conklin, he was 6 for 55 on 9 targets. Alan Lazard saw 10 targets, 4 for 34 and a touchdown. Mike Williams, only 2 for 25 on 4 targets, but he's getting more and more involved coming back from that ACL. So they had to throw it a lot in this game. So there was some fantasy goodness from Conklin as a streamer and then Garrett Wilson. But yeah, the Jets haven't looked great the last couple of weeks. Tough matchups. So I don't think it'll be this bad for the rest of the year, but definitely shows that they do have some downside. Next matchup, the Chicago Bears at home taking on the Carolina Panthers. The Bears get the win 36-10. It was a blowout. The Bears are now 3-2. The Panthers are 1-4. And for what it's worth, the Jets are 2-3. I don't think I said their record. And of course, the Vikings are 5-0. Everyone knows that. Caleb Williams, though, he had his first breakout game. 20 for 29, 304 and 2 touchdowns. He also added 5 for 34 on the ground. Was the quarterback 6 on the week according to Fantasy Pros scoring, 23.6 points. Big game. I did not like his ADP in the draft season, but he's a rookie. He's coming along, and this is a good sign that he had himself a good game. Because you want to see flashes from these rookie quarterbacks, and he flashed some upside here. DeAndre Swift, what the heck, guys? Another good game. He had 21 carries, turned into 73 and a touchdown, 2 for 47 through the air on 2 targets. Last week, he was a running back 3. This week, he was the running back 2. Granted, last week, he had more points, 26 last week, 19 this week. But yeah, if he's going to get things going, yeah, that'll be good for all the people who drafted him and thought they had a bust pick. And as long as the offense is clicking, that just helps. Roshan Johnson, he's kind of been generating some buzz. It came out that he might start to steal work from DeAndre Swift. At this point, it does not look like that, but he is the clear backup right now and a change of pace back. 10 carries, 25 yards only, but ran in 2 touchdowns. Looks like no passing game involvement, but speaking of the passing game, DJ Moore led the way with 8 targets, turned into 5 for 105 and 2 touchdowns. I did just trade away DJ Moore in my Dynasty League, so that makes sense. I'm in a win now mode. I think DJ Moore kind of has a limited ceiling this year with the rookie quarterback and Keenan Allen there, Rome Odunze there. So I figured, next year and beyond, once Caleb is more developed, once Keenan Allen is gone, he'll have more upside. But I traded him away, Jalen Warren, and a 4th round pick for James Cook and Adam Thielen. So the real headline there is DJ Moore for James Cook. But he was 5 for 105 and 2 touchdowns. He was the wide receiver 4 on the week with 25 points. Rome Odunze was 5 for 40 on 6 targets. Keenan Allen was 3 for 33 on 6 targets. So again, it's a crowded receiving room. It's going to be hard to know who's going to be productive each week, but DJ Moore is the one you want there. Cole Kmet 3 for 57, Gerald Everett 2 for 22 at tight end. And then for the Panthers, Andy Dalton came back down to earth. I did end up starting Trevor Lawrence over Andy Dalton in Dynasty, so that was the right call. We'll talk about that later. But Andy Dalton was 18 for 28, 136, no touchdowns, 1 pick. Chuba Hubbard, I talked about him. I did like him this week. Did I make him a start of the week? I did. He was one of my 2 running back starts of the week, and he actually put together a really solid game. He was the running back 9 on the week with 15.5 points, 13 for 97 and a touchdown. 4 targets, caught all of them, but it turned into -2 yards. Miles Sanders is the clear second back there, 2 for 6 on the ground, 2 for 27 through the air. The leading receiver for the Panthers was actually Jalen Coker, rookie. I believe he's a rookie, 4 for 68 on 4 targets. Then Jonathan Mingo, 2 for 37 on 5 targets. Deontay Johnson, disappointing game. He saw 6 targets, but only turned into 3 for 23. Xavier Legette, only 1 for 8. I believe he left this game early, if I'm not mistaken. I talked about picking him up because he might have some opportunity with the Thielen injury and with Andy Dalton actually being able to move the offense, but I could have swore he left that game early. I'm not seeing any reports, but I'm looking it up right now. Yeah, he left with a shoulder injury. Okay, that's what I thought. Yeah, I think that's pretty much all we need to talk about with this game. Yeah, Bears are they have a winning record. Crazy. Next up, very exciting game. I'm excited to talk about this one. One of the few teams that can apparently outscore the Chicago Bears. Baltimore Ravens on the road against the Cincinnati Bengals. Crazy high scoring game in Cincinnati, but the Ravens do get the win 41-38 in overtime. Ravens 3-2. The Bengals are 1-4. It was a crazy ending. Lamar Jackson, there was like a weird fumble that he had. I believe it was like on the snap. Bengals recovered. They kick a field goal, or a field goal attempt. He misses, and then the Ravens are able to take it down the field and kick the game-winning field goal. I believe Derrick Henry had a big long run to set them up close to the goal line, if I remember that correctly. We'll start with the Ravens, though. Lamar Jackson continues to be incredible. He was a quarterback 3 on the week with 33.4 points in Fantasy Pro scoring, 348, 4 touchdowns. He also added 12 for 55 on the ground. Speaking of the rushing game, Derrick Henry, 15 for 92 and a touchdown. He was having an okay game, but then in overtime, I believe that's when he had that long run. And he finished the week as the running back 7 with 16.1 points. He's an each and every week play. Justice Hill didn't really get it done for fantasy as a streamer. I had to start him because I had a lot of people on bye. 5 for 17 on the ground, 1 for 8 through the air. Derrick Henry also added 1 for 4 through the air. And then Zay Flowers, he had himself a performance here. I was starting to get worried about the guy, but he saw 12 targets, turned into 7 for 111, 15.5 points. Obviously, though, in the game where it's, you score 41 points, it makes sense that, multiple players would put up production. And then we finally did it, guys. We had the leading receiving tight end put up a big game, but it wasn't Isaiah Likely, and it wasn't Mark Andrews. It was Charlie Kolar, 3 for 64 and a touchdown on 4 targets. Mark Andrews had an okay game at this point. I mean, we'll take it. 4 for 55 on 5 targets. For what it's worth, Kolar was the tight end 5 on the week. Andrews was the tight end 19. And then Isaiah Likely, 3 for 13, but had 2 touchdowns. So Likely was a tight end 4. Kolar was a tight end 5. Andrews was the tight end 19. Tight end 3 on his own team in terms of fantasy production. Rashad Bateman, 4 for 58 and a touchdown on 8 targets. Yeah, I mean, it's good to see some work out of Andrews, but man, Andrews managers are having a rough time. Another great quarterback performance on the other side of the ball was Joe Burrow. He was a quarterback 2 on the week with 34.8 points. For some reason, I think Fantasy Pros has slightly different scoring than normal, but according to them, quarterback 2 on the week, 30 of 39, 392 and 5 touchdowns, 1 pick. Chase Brown was the running back to have here, and it's looking like he, I don't know. To start the year, it was clearly Zach Moss was the guy you want, but Chase Brown has had a couple good weeks in a row here. He was 12 for 46 on the ground, and he also added 3 for 8 and a touchdown through the air. So he was the running back 12 on the week with 14.9 points. Yeah, I don't know. It's kind of messy. It's a little bit messy. I don't know who you want. It looks like maybe it's turning into a Chase Brown because he had 12 carries and Zach Moss was 9 for 24 on the ground. In the Megala Bowl, I did start Chase Brown, or excuse me, I started Zach Moss over Darnell Mooney, which I do regret deeply. Zach Moss was 3 for 28 through the air and 4 targets. And then in the receiver game, Jamar Chase had a vintage Jamar Chase performance here. This is what you wanted when you drafted him. 10 for 193 and 2 on 12 targets, had a 70-yard bomb. He was the wide receiver 1 on the week with 36.3 points. I played him in some DraftKings, so I'm very happy about that. And then T. Higgins, his teammate, wide receiver 5 on the week. Or excuse me, yes, wide receiver 5 on the week, 9 for 83 and 2 touchdowns. So both of those guys had a couple touchdowns each. Yeah, the offense is starting to come together a little bit here. The Bengals have been kind of slow starters in recent years, but they are 1-4. It might be too late to salvage their season, but if they can string together some wins and get back in it, that'll be interesting. But they just started so slow. Oshivas only had 1 catch, but it was 39 yards. It looks like the Bengals are taking on the Giants, the Browns, the Eagles, the Raiders, Ravens again, the Chargers. So there's some tough matchups in there. I'm not gonna lie. I mean, they're gonna have to win some ball games here. Gesicki at tight end, 2 for 31 on 2 targets. Eric All, another tight end there, also saw 2 targets, 2 for 10. All was kind of in the streaming category. I put him in some DK lineups. Both of those guys, they saw a couple targets each. I'm interested to see the snap percentage between those guys, though. So it looks like Eric All was 52%. Mike Gesicki was 43%, tied with Drew Sample, another tight end at 43%. So at this point, you probably don't want to start either of them until there's a little bit of clarity or until one of them becomes the clear pass catcher. But, tight end is ugly, so you might be forced to make a decision there. But right now, it's a little tough to want to play either of them. Next game, we got a pretty gross matchup here. The New England Patriots hosting the Miami Dolphins. Dolphins get the win on the road. They're now 2-3. The Patriots fall to 1-4. I believe moving forward, Drake May, the rookie quarterback, was named the starter after this game. So he did not start this game, but moving forward, Drake May is going to be the starter. I think that might give them a little bit of hope, but it's tough with a rookie quarterback. But Jacoby Brissett, actually, let's start with the Dolphins here. So Tyler Huntley in his second start with the team after they signed him last week. 18 of 31, 194, no touchdowns, 1 pick, 3 for 7 on the ground. Not someone that you should be looking to start. And the loss of Tua is definitely hurting this team and its weapons. Devon Achane got hurt in this game. He was only 3 for 18 before leaving. He had 1 catch for -1 yards. So we'll have to monitor that moving forward. But, I'm not sure if he's going to miss any games, but so he got a concussion, so he'll have to go through the protocol and see what happens. But if he misses, it might honestly be, I don't want to say a blessing in disguise, because it's not a blessing that someone gets hurt, but him being inactive might make it so you don't force yourself to start him, because without Tua, this offense has been dreadful. And the Dolphins are on bye in week 6, so there's a good chance he'll be back by week 7, to be honest. But yeah, Jalen Wright had a bigger role in this game with that absence. He was 13 for 86 on the ground. He also, did he see any passing game involvement? Doesn't look like it. Jalen Waddle. There's 2 Jalens. I was getting confused. My brain couldn't process that. But Raheem Mostert, he came back from injury. He's missed a handful of games after week 1. And it was a bad week 1. He didn't look very involved. He didn't get a lot done, but he was running back 22 on the week. He saw 19 carries, turned into 80 yards, 2 for 18 through the air. So I love Raheem Mostert as a value in draft season. And after week 1's usage, I was very concerned. We haven't gotten to see him on the field really since week 1 because he's missed games. But, you love that. 19 carries, 80 yards. Obviously, if Achane is back and healthy, that's going to, affect his workload. But Jalen Wright was involved. He saw 13 carries, Jalen Wright did. So it's not like, Achane left and Mostert saw all the work. It wasn't like that. It was both were involved, and I'm interested to see what their actual snap percentages were here. So it looks like Raheem Mostert played 56% of the snaps. Jalen Wright played 32% of the snaps. So Mostert was the lead back there with Achane gone. And then in the passing game, Tyreek Hill was 6 for 69 on 9 targets. Very nice. Well, not nice for fantasy, but at this point, with no Tua, you'll take 6 for 69. I was very pleased with that because I have him in a couple leagues. Jalen Waddle, 8 targets, 4 for 46. Really not someone you want to start without Tua. And then on the other side, the Patriots, Jacoby Brissett, 18 of 34 for 160 yards, no touchdowns, no pick, 1 for 10 on the ground. And then Ramondre Stevenson, he got quote unquote benched for this game, but it was more of a slap on the wrist than an actual benching. They named Gibson the starter, but Ramondre Stevenson, he was the lead back, 12 for 89 and a touchdown. It's good. It was good to see him have a good game because he had a good start to the season. Then it was kind of ugly. He saw 4 targets, caught him off for only 3 yards, but you love the 4 targets. And then Gibson, still kind of like a deeper flex play, 6 for 52 on the ground, only 1 target, caught it for 4 yards. I played him in some DraftKings thinking he might see some involvement here, but really not much. And then the receiver game continues to be ugly in that receiver room. 6 for 59 on 9 targets for Demario Douglas. You got your Kayshawn Booties, your Jalen Polks, Kendrick Bourne's in there. Just nothing really relevant. Hunter Henry 2 for 32. Let's move on to the next game. It's very gross. It's pretty much just Ramondre Stevenson and check out at this point. And then for the Dolphins, I mean, Mostert might be a play moving forward. Tyreek Hill is someone you're still probably starting. You don't necessarily have to if you have a stacked lineup, especially if you're in like a 10-team league. But I'm not really wanting to start Waddle. Achane, I mean, same thing. It's like you probably feel like you have to start him, but until Tua comes back, it's going to be probably messy. Next matchup, though, Washington Commanders. Your 4-1 Washington Commanders beat the Cleveland Browns, the 1-4 Cleveland Browns, 34-13. Yeah, the Browns look really bad with Deshaun Watson. He does not look good. Like I think for the team would be better off with Jameis Winston taking over for sure. But we'll start with the 49ers or the 49ers. Yeah, let's talk about the 49ers. No, the Commanders. Jaden Daniels continues to be a cheat code, one of the best picks in all of fantasy. I highlighted him in the offseason as one of my favorite quarterback values. I didn't get him anywhere, but 14 for 25, 238, 1 touchdown, 1 pick, added 11 for 82 on the ground. He was a quarterback 12 on the week with just over 20 points. He's pretty much an every week auto start because he had some easy matchups before this. The Browns were more of a test, and he passed the test. In the rushing game, this is so annoying. So Eckler saw 6 carries, Brian Robinson saw 7 carries, and McNichols saw 7 carries. Jeremy McNichols has had some relevant games here, and I know this was a blowout, so maybe that's why he saw more work, but we'll just start with Brian Robinson. He's kind of the traditional lead back there. He saw 7 for 18 on the ground, but luckily he ran in a couple rushing touchdowns, so that was very fortunate for those who started him. He was the running back 14 on the week with 13.8 points. Austin Eckler came back from injury. I believe he had a concussion, but he came back. He was 6 for 67 on the ground. He had a 50-yard run in this game, 2 for 30 through the air. And then Jeremy McNichols, 7 for 44 and a rushing touchdown. Pretty annoying. And then in the passing game, it's pretty much just the Terry McLaurin show. It's kind of the only guy you want there. For what it's worth, Jeremy McNichols was the running back 2 on the week. Eckler was the running back 23. So running back 23 and running back 24. Did I just say McNichols was the running back 2 on the week? I meant to say a running back 2 as the running back 24. Austin Eckler was the running back 23. But Terry McLaurin, 8 targets, 4 for 112 through the air. Finding a way to get it done. He's had, it's not like crazy target volume or reception totals, but he's making big plays. He's getting in the end zone. So he's a worthy starter to look at. Diami Brown had a 41-yard bomb, 2 for 57 and a touchdown on 2 targets. I'm not chasing that. Luke McCaffrey, 3 for 19 on 3 targets. Really, it's McLaren and you log out in the receiver room. Zach Ertz saw 8 targets, only turned into 2 for 10, but he's a worthy streamer at the position. And yeah, hopefully McNichols doesn't become a thing every week because that would be disgusting. That would be gross. We want it to be Brian Robinson and Austin Eckler, but Robinson played 34% of snaps, Eckler played 49% of snaps, and McNichols played 22. So if the game was closer, I wonder, if that would have been potentially a little bit different of a split. Did Brian Robinson get hurt? So he is dealing with a knee injury. Did he leave that game early? I'm a little confused as to why I didn't play that much. Because it does say he's dealing with a knee injury. He's questionable. Oh, okay, that was before the game. Okay, so I don't know. I don't know why that happened. Maybe I'm misinformed, but yeah, so they're just continuing to monitor his knee injury, but he was dealing with that before the game, so maybe that's why he didn't get that combined with the score. Maybe that's why they didn't give him a ton of work. But anyways, other side of the ball, Deshaun Watson is not good. 15 of 28, 125 and a touchdown, 3 for 14 on the ground, not getting the ball to his weapons. Amari Cooper was one of my starts of the week, and he saw 10 targets, turned into 4 for 60. Between drops and Deshaun Watson just not connecting with him, Amari Cooper he might be limited. He might. He seems like a buy low to me, but without him, Watson getting benched or hurt, I just don't see a world where it's going to be reliable, consistent production. But Jerome Ford was 9 for 47 on the ground, 3 for 2 through the air. Deontay Foreman 9 for 44 on the ground. And then Amari Cooper 4 for 60, like I said. Jordan Akins at tight end, 3 for 22 and a touchdown on 3 targets. Which is funny because David Njoku did come back from injury and he was only 1 for 14 through the air on 3 targets. I did play him over Tucker Kraft, who we'll talk about later, in a league, and that was annoying. The week that my possible streaming option actually did good, Njoku came back and made me put this good streamer on the bench. But David Njoku, he played 42% of the snaps. So kind of like Robinson coming back. He was coming back from injury, and the score did get out of hand. Akins played 32% of the snaps. Njoku played 42% of the snaps. Jerry Jeudy was only 1 for 16, so very disappointing game there. 4 for 60 isn't, it's not end of the world for Amari Cooper, but I mean, that was a matchup that you really want to exploit. Like, if you have a receiver that's going against the Commanders and you don't know if they're going to put up a good week, like, that's tough. So I would still be wanting to start Amari Cooper in the right matchup, but he's not like an each and every week auto start, but I think he will have his games. I do think they are coming. Another high scoring game here. The Jacksonville Jaguars hosting the Indianapolis Colts. I just closed my stats. Can I open that back up? There we go. The Jags get the win, 37-34. First win of the year for Jacksonville. They're now 1-4. The Colts are 2-3. Trevor Lawrence, he was a decent streamer this week, and he put together a nice performance. 28 of 34, 371 yards, 2 touchdowns, and a pick. Jacksonville scored 24 points in the fourth quarter. Holy cannoli, that's insane. He was the quarterback 10 on the week, Trevor Lawrence. In the rushing game, Tank Bigsby out-carried Travis Etienne. And Tank Bigsby was also the running back 1 on the week. So, yeah. Someone that it's becoming a bit of a committee there. And he's also a good handcuff where if Etienne were to ever miss time and Tank Bigsby was the clear starter, I mean, he would be really good for fantasy. Etienne, it's looking like he's dealing with a shoulder issue. He was held out late in that game on Sunday. So that can kind of explain the disparity of the workload there. But Etienne, disappointing. Running back 29 on the week, 9 points, 6 for 17 on the ground. Salvaged it with 6 for 43 through the air on 7 targets. So you do like those targets. Tank Bigsby, 13 for 101 and 2 touchdowns, though. Running back 1 on the week. Added a 28-yard catch on his 1 target. And then Brian Thomas Jr. What a game. He was one of my starts of the week. The Amari Cooper one didn't really work out, but Brian Thomas sure did. He was one of my starts of the week, but I wasn't able to start him in one of my leagues because, I had Jaden Reed, DK Metcalf, Deebo Samuel. And it's like, I don't want to bench those guys, but Brian Thomas in a good matchup, 5 for 122 and 1 touchdown, 8 targets. He was the wide receiver 9 on the week with 20.7 points. And ladies and gentlemen, he's the wide receiver 7 on the year. I think we need to shift the narrative about him. I think he's arrived. I think he is someone that, like, for the example I gave, I need to consider starting him over those guys because not only is he a good player, but he has upside. He makes big plays. He had an 85-yard touchdown in this game. And you can say, well, a lot of his production came from one play, but on the other side, he can do that. He can win you a week on one play. So definitely someone that should be started ideally. You probably drafted him late, so maybe he wasn't drafted to be a starter for you, but you have depth now. So congrats if you have him on your team. Christian Kirk, 4 for 88. Solid little Christian Kirk game right there. Gabe Davis, 3 for 38. Brenton Strange got in the end zone. 4 for 24 and a touchdown. I don't believe... Did Evan Ingram play in this game? I don't think he played. I believe he was listed as out. I don't have him in any leagues. I believe he was not active. Okay, I'm not seeing anything on him, so I believe he was out. So Brendan Strange, until Ingram comes back, is kind of a touchdown or bust streamer. And then on the other side, Anthony Richardson did not play, and that was good for the offense, honestly. Joe Flacco, we know what he does. He comes in and he balls out. 33 of 44, 359 yards and 3 touchdowns. I went up against a team that had Anthony Richardson. They picked up Joe Flacco, and I was like, dang it, dude. He's probably going to have a good week. He was a quarterback 4 on the week. Yeah. Flacco, if he starts, he's going to be good, especially in the right matchup, which this was the right matchup. He fed his receivers. I mean, Alec Pierce was 3 for 134 and a touchdown, only 3 targets, but he's a big play guy. Josh Downs saw 12 targets, turned into 9 for 69. Very nice. Adonai Mitchell, 7 targets, 4 for 38. And then Michael Pittman was a little disappointing. 8 targets, only turned into 5 for 37, but he did catch a touchdown to kind of salvage the week a little bit. And then no Jonathan Taylor at running back either in this game, which was unfortunate. But Trey Sermon was the handcuff there. I made sure to hold on to him in Dynasty. I always drop these guys and they go off for other teams, but I held on to Trey Sermon. I have Jonathan Taylor. Trey Sermon came in, was 10 for 38 and a touchdown. And he also added 6 for 25 through the air on 6 targets. So Trey Sermon was actually the running back 10 on the week. So he'll be serviceable until Jonathan Taylor comes back. You know, the targets help and getting in the end zone helps. But not a must start, but you know, in the right matchup, someone that could be serviceable until JT comes back. But he's taking on the Titans coming up. That's tough. And the Dolphins, that's a little bit better. Yeah, hopefully JT just comes back sooner rather than later. Next matchup, we got the Houston Texans and the Bills in Houston. The Texans get the win 23-20. Houston is now 4-1. Buffalo is 3-2. The Bills at the end of this game, so at the end of the fourth quarter, they were like backed up in their own end zone late in the game. They threw 3 consecutive passing plays. They were all incompletions, ran no time off the clock, didn't force the Texans to use any timeouts. They punted it away. Houston gets the ball. They ran like 1 or 2 plays, get in field goal range, kick the game winner. It was a crazy finish. It was a strategy. I don't know if it was the right one though for the Bills, but CJ Stroud was quarterback for the Texans. He was 28 of 38. 331 yards, only 1 touchdown, 1 pick, added 3 for 27 on the ground. He was a quarterback 15 on the week. So not great, but it was an okay performance. Just didn't quite get the touchdowns. Cam Akers finally filling in for Joe Mixon, finally had a decent week. He was 9 for 42 on the ground, 2 for 5 through the air, but he got in the end zone in this game. So he was the running back 19 on the week with 11.7 points. So as long as he's the starter, you're probably going to need the rushing touchdown to salvage his production, but he got it. And then Dare Agumbawale was actually the carry leader in this game. They actually tied in fantasy production in half PPR, 11.7 points each. Dare was 15 for 30 on the ground, but he saw 7 targets and went 6 for 57 through the air. And that's kind of his game. He is a good pass catching back, so that makes sense that he would see the passing game work there. And then in terms of snap percentages here, so it looks like Dare played 68% of the snaps and Cam Akers played 32% of the snaps. So honestly, if Mixon misses again, I would not be chasing Akers because he already wasn't really good as the lead back there. It looks like Dare kind of took over. Granted, the Texans were trailing in this game, so they needed more pass catching. But if it's going to be a split, you're going to need Akers to fall in the end zone to be relevant for fantasy. So probably don't want to start either one. Probably just wait for Mixon to come back. But in the receiver game, Nico Collins, 2 for 78 and a touchdown. But he did leave this game very early with an injury. He only played 9 snaps. So to go 2 for 78 and a touchdown on 9 snaps, it's like you're happy you got the production before he left, but also it's like what could have been, you know? So I believe that's a hamstring injury, which is not great. He was arguably the best receiver in all of fantasy football. He finished as the wide receiver 16 on the week with 9 snaps, but he's week to week with a hamstring. That's tough. That's going to bump up Stephon Diggs and Nico Collins, though. Just consolidate those targets. Or excuse me. It's going to bump up Stephon Diggs and Tank Dell without Nico Collins. Diggs in a revenge game, 6 for 82 and on 8 targets. Very solid Stephon Diggs game. And again, if Nico's out, he's going to be relied upon. Tank Dell, 4 for 38 on 4 targets. Not great, but especially if Nico is out, I think it'll be better for Tank Dell. And I think some big plays are coming for Tank. Dalton Schultz at tight end. Saw 6 targets, only turned into 4 for 34. But again, like those other receivers, if Nico is out, that only helps Dalton Schultz with that target consolidation. And then for the Bills, man. The Bills. And then for what it's worth, also, Diggs was the wide receiver 29 on the week. But to the Bills side, Josh Allen did not have a great game for fantasy. He was a quarterback 19 on the week. Not what we want. Last week was bad as well. Quarterback 28 on the week. So 2 disappointing weeks in a row for Josh Allen. We're not used to seeing that from the Stallion, but he was 9 of 30? I remember seeing that stat line and I forgot about it, but I just saw it again. Wow. He did leave with an injury at one point and came back, but 9 of 30 is crazy. 131, 1 touchdown, only added, he added 54 yards on the ground, which is pretty solid. 4 for 54 on the ground. I mean, if he didn't have that, wow. You're still starting him, but that is concerning. James Cook was 20 for 82 on the ground, 2 for 17 through the air. So we do like that production out of James Cook, especially because I traded for him in Dynasty. He was the running back 6 on the week. He's an each and every week start. Last week was rough, but that was against the Baltimore Ravens. And I believe I even said on this podcast, like, don't overreact. You're going to start James Cook pretty much every week, if not every week. So, yep, he was solid. Running back 6 on the week, 16.9 points in half PPR. And then the receiving room was a little bit ugly here. Keon Coleman, 1 for 49, but went for a touchdown, 5 targets. Dalton Kincaid saw 6 targets, only turned into 2 for 34. Mac Hollins, 6 targets, 2 for 27. Like I said, James Cook saw 3 targets, 2 for 17. MVS, 3 targets, no catches. Curtis Samuel, 4 targets, 1 catch for 0 yards. So, like, I believe Khalil Shakir was out for this game, which I think he's probably the receiver you want there. Yeah, so, yeah, kind of gross. But, it's James Cook. It's Josh Allen. Those are the auto starts. And Kincaid, you probably have to start, but it really has not come together for him yet. And I think it will, but I've been thinking it will for 5 weeks in a row now. So, very interesting. Next game, a little bit more high scoring than I think most people thought, and that was the Denver Broncos hosting the Las Vegas Raiders. The Broncos get the win 34-18. The Broncos are 3-2. The Raiders are 2-3. Bo Nix was 19 of 27 for 206 and 2. He also added 8 for 9 and a touchdown on the ground. He was a quarterback 8 on the week. So, Bo Nix runs the ball a little bit, and this was his best fantasy performance of the year, but we've seen some flashes from him that, maybe this is a player that we can stream at some point in his career, especially if he's going to run the ball a little bit. Javonte Williams on the ground was 13 for 61, 5 for 50 through the air on 6 targets. So it's good to see some signs of life out of Javonte Williams. I think a lot of people left him for dead, but he was the running back 15 on the week with 13.6 points and half PPR. Last week he had 9 points. So this is his first week in double digits, but maybe he can turn into a solid little streaming back moving forward. He was the leading rusher. Jaleel McLaughlin was 6 for 22 on the ground. He added 3 catches for 3 yards through the air. And then in the receiving game, Javonte Williams was the leading receiver, but next up was Lil Jordan Humphrey, 2 for 48 on 2 targets. Cortland Sutton saw 5 targets, 2 for 32. Troy Franklin was 1 for 20 on 2 targets. He had a drop touchdown in there. And then Josh Reynolds, only 1 catch, but it was a 9-yard touchdown on 2 targets. So the only person you would maybe start here at this point is Cortland Sutton as a streamer, as a deeper flex play. Maybe Javonte, if he can keep turning things around a little bit, he might be, worth a flex, especially if once injuries are mounting already, but as injuries continue to mount and as bye weeks come. And then for the Raiders, Gardner Minshew, 12 for 17, 137, 1 touchdown, 2 picks. He did get benched. He also had a 2 for 22 on the ground, but Aiden O'Connell came in, wasn't really much better, 10 for 20, 94 yards, 1 pick, no touchdowns. Madison got the start, no Zamir White in this game. He was 15 for 38 on the ground, 2 for 23 through the air on 3 targets. Amir Abdullah got some work, 5 for 42 and a touchdown on the ground. He had a 40-yard run in there. He also had a 3 for 9 on 3 targets. And then actually some fantasy goodness here for the Raiders here, okay? So Jacoby Myers, no Devontae Adams in this game either. Okay, so I told you guys Denver was a good defense to target here just because, no Devontae Adams, no Zamir White for what it was worth, not much. And just, a struggling offense, struggling quarterbacks. The Broncos were they tied for number 2 on the week. So you're welcome. You're welcome if you pick them up. But Jacoby Myers, he's going to be the lead receiver there as long as Devontae Adams is out, quote, out with a hamstring injury, aka I think they're looking to trade him. I remember I speculated that. I wasn't sure, but then it came out that is probably what's happening. Jacoby Myers, though, to get to the point, stop yapping. 9 targets, 6 for 72. I mean, 10.2 points, you'll take that. Someone at that level. If there's a bye week and you need some safe production, he might be a good bet. I know I drafted him in a couple of leagues and ended up dropping him, but he's probably a good waiver wire pickup. And then Brock Bowers, here we go. This is what we wanted. 8 for 97 and a touchdown. He was the tight end 2 on the week. He saw 12 targets as well, turned into 19.7 points in half PPR. That is what we want out of Brock Bowers. And then Trey Tucker, I brought him up last week as someone to maybe pick up in deeper leagues. He was kind of a dynasty name that, a lot of dynasty people knew about, but he saw 5 targets, only turned into 2 for 18. He also added 2 for 8 on the ground, but I think, as long as Devontae Adams remains out or once he leaves the team, he'll be someone that's worth considering at times in deeper leagues, especially. He's kind of a big play guy, so unless he gets that, it might not be good, but a name to monitor. Moving on to the next matchup, the San Francisco 49ers were hosting the Arizona Cardinals, and the Cardinals get the surprise win 24-23. Very exciting game. Both teams are 2-3. We'll start with the Cardinals. Kyler Murray had himself a really good performance. Quarterback 5 on the week, 19 of 30, 195, 1 touchdown, 1 pick, but he also added 7 for 83 and a touchdown on the ground. He had a 50-yard rushing touchdown, and 45 yards out from the end zone, he started celebrating. It was crazy. In the running back room, James Conner, 19 for 86, 2 for 14 through the air, a guy that you're pretty much starting each and every week. The only week I wish I would have sat him was against Detroit, because he had a rough game and they do shut down the running back position. Although the next week, I believe it was the very next week, Kenneth Walker had that massive performance, so who knows. But he was the running back 17 on the week, 13 points in half PPR. James Conner, I talked about him in the draft season, but he's been, these are his points so far this year: 17.8, 18.9, 3 against Detroit, but then 17.8 and 13. So you're starting him every week, and you're probably going to get a solid performance every week. He was the only running back to see a carry in this game. It was him and Kyler, only players to register a carry. And then in the receiving game, Marvin Harrison, big disappointment, 2 for 36 on 7 targets. You're going to keep starting him. It's kind of what you asked for. I mean, you drafted a rookie in the second or third round. It might be a little bit of a bumpy ride, but you got to start him because he'll have his weeks. We learned from week 1, don't bench him. Okay, big plays are coming. Michael Wilson actually led the team in receiving, 6 targets, 5 for 78 through the air. So Marvin Harrison is the one you start every week, but there's a couple auxiliary options there with Michael Wilson, Greg Dortch. Zay Jones is going to be coming back from that suspension, but I would probably rather start Michael Wilson than Dortch, he saw 2 targets, 1 for 7. Dortch, that is. Trey McBride was active for this game. He was dealing with a bit of a boo-boo. I can't remember what his injury was. Was it a concussion? Or was he dealing with the rib injury? Ribs. I'm seeing ribs. Okay. So he was the one dealing with a rib injury. 9 targets, 6 for 53. Tight end 16 on the week, 8.3 points, but you're start him every week. Just start him. Just start him every week. Just stop thinking. Okay. 9 targets. You love that. And then Elijah Higgins, the backup tight end, actually got in the end zone. 1 target, caught it for a 2-yard touchdown. And then for the 49ers, Brock Purdy was disappointing. He was one of my starts of the week. He finished as the quarterback 17, 19 of 35, 244, 1 touchdown, 2 picks, 4 for 33 on the ground. And then Jordan Mason was another one of my starts of the week, and he actually didn't have a great game. I kind of thought he was a lock, but it was a little disappointing. 8.3 points, running back 32 on the week, 14 for 89 on the ground, only 1 for 9 through the air on 1 target. So, 89 yards is nothing to sneeze at, but no touchdowns, only 1 catch, minimal yardage with it. You're going to start him each and every week moving forward, but we have seen a little bit of downside. He's been filling in very admirably for Christian McCaffrey, but week 1, 21.2. Next week, 16.4. Next week, 8.8. So kind of fell back down to earth. Then the next week, 22. Then the following week, 7.8. So he's not just going to give you 20 plus points each and every week, but he is a worthy start. I had him as my running back 1 overall on the week. And he will have big games moving forward, but he's not quite Christian McCaffrey. Isaac Guerrero saw some work in this game. 5 for 22 on the ground. No passing game involvement. And then Debo, he came back from injury. Only 1 for 11 through the air on 3 targets. He did add 3 carries, but it only turned into 9 yards. And then Brandon Ayuk had himself a game finally. We've been waiting for this. I think I played him in like 1 or 2 DraftKings lineups because I figured people would be off of him in tournaments just because he really hadn't put it together yet. But we know he's a good player, and I figured he was just kind of rusty from that weird offseason. But Brandon Ayuk was 8 for 147 yards on 12 targets. So you love the targets, and it looks like he's back as someone that you're going to be starting a lot of. For what it's worth, Deebo Samuel played 81% of the snaps. Ayuk played 92. George Kittle, also back from injury, 8 for 64 and a touchdown, 12 targets. Or did he? Try to remember the injury situation for everyone off the top of my head is very hard, but I know Kittle was dealing with an injury at one point, but he played. Okay, so he missed week 3. He came back in week 4. And he was active again for week 5. I believe he was questionable for week 5, though, even though he was active for week 4. But George Kittle, speaking of good receivers, 8 for 64 and a touchdown on 12 targets. He was the tight end 3 on the week with 16.4 points. With this 49ers offense, some weeks it's just a certain player's week, and some weeks it's not their week. So this was an Ayuk week and a Kittle week. Juwan Jennings was 1 for 13. Deebo Samuel was 1 for 11. Just one football. Jennings did play 56% of the snaps, so he's firmly behind those top guys, but he's still involved. And then Jordan Mason did play 64% of the snaps. So not McCaffrey level 100% of snaps for him. Garendo was involved. So yeah, I think that's enough from that game. We got a few more games here to get through. Let's go Packers Rams. So this was a game that had some hype around it. Didn't quite live up to it. The Packers did get the win though on the road, 24-19. Packers are 3-2. The Rams are 1-4. Jordan Love was the start of the week, and he didn't really do great for fantasy. 15 of 26, 224 and 2. One really bad interception where he was trying to not give up a safety, so he just like yeeted the ball, but it went right to a Rams defender, and they got like a 5-yard pick six. It was really not great. But quarterback 14 on the week. Could have been a lot worse. He did add 3 for 10 on the ground. And then Josh Jacobs had himself a nice performance at running back. 19 for 73 and a touchdown. Also added 1 catch for 21 yards. Was the running back 8 on the week with 15.9. Emmanuel Wilson is the clear backup there, but he does get some work. 6 for 24. Also 1 catch for -9 yards. And then Tucker Kraft at tight end was the leading receiver. He was one of my starts of the week at tight end. So proud of that. He was 4 for 88 and 2 touchdowns. The tight end 1 on the week, 22.8 points. So shout out. Make sure to subscribe so you can get more of those savvy plays, those week winning plays. And then Jaden Reed was one of my starts of the week. It was all right. 6 targets, 4 for 78, 2 for 19 on the ground. Definitely expected more, but he was the wide receiver 24 on the week with 11.7 points. So could have been a lot worse, but I also did highlight Dontavian Wicks as one of my starts of the week without Christian Watson, and it did not work. And also, what's his name? Romeo Dobbs. He was out for this game too. He got suspended for conduct detrimental to the team. Wicks saw 7 targets, but it turned into 2 for 20. So I think the process was right. He actually led the team in targets. It just didn't quite work out. But, you know, if Watson is out, I think Wicks is still someone that can be started if you need someone to fill in on a bye week or whatever. Because just the week before he had a great game. So don't let 1 week, influence you so much, just kind of try to, use some common sense. But there is no such thing as common sense in fantasy football, honestly. But on the other side, Matt Stafford, 29 of 45, 260 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 pick. He's doing the best he can without Cooper Kupp or Puka Nacua. But in the receiving game, Jordan Whittington, I talked about him I can't remember when I talked about him. I talked about him at some point. I played him in a lot of DraftKings. But he was the leading receiver. He saw 10 targets, turned into 7 for 89. So that was really solid. He's someone that should be picked up, like I said before. He was the wide receiver 21 on the week with 12.4 points. Tutu Atwell also saw 10 targets, turned into 6 for 58. And then Colby Parkinson saw 13 targets, led the team in targets, turned into 7 for 52. He hasn't been great, but I did have a trade package this offseason that saw me shipping him off and getting Zeke in return. And that I would definitely rather have Colby Parkinson in Dynasty at this point, even though it hasn't really been great. He was the tight end 13 on the week with 8.7 points. And then Demarcus Robinson, only 5 targets, but 3 for 28 and a touchdown. So Whittington would be the one that I want the most. And then after that, it's probably Tutu, then Robinson. And at this point, Tyler Johnson is irrelevant. And then in the running game, Kyron Williams continues to be amazing. 22 for 102 and 1. He also added 1 for 3 through the air. Running back 11 on the week, 15 points. So start Kyron every week. Next matchup, we only got 2 more Sunday games left. We got the Giants and the Seahawks in Seattle. Giants get the surprising upset win, 29-20. Giants are 2-3. The Seahawks are 3-2. Danny Dimes with no Malik Neighbors at wide receiver, mind you. He was the quarterback 11 on the week, 23 of 34, 257 and 2. Also added 11 for 38 on the ground. I did mention at one point, like he might be a streamer moving forward after that week 1 disaster against the Vikings, but hindsight is 2020, but the Vikings defense looks phenomenal. So it makes sense that he might not have looked great against that team. So Daniel Jones is someone that can be streamed, especially in like 2 quarterback leagues. He should be, obviously rostered and potentially started. And then, so no Malik Neighbors, no Devin Singletary, and the Giants get the win. Tyrone Tracy filled in as a starting running back. He was 18 for 129 on the ground. Saw 2 targets, caught one of them for a yard. Not much there, but he was the running back 16 on the week with 13.5 points. So someone to monitor if, Singletary misses more time or if he misses time again. That's a name that, we know, like if he goes down, he's going to be the guy and he's going to see solid work. Eric Gray was the backup running back. He saw 4 for 4 on the ground. He did have more passing game involvement, though. Eric Gray did. He saw 4 targets, 3 for 50 through the air. So, for what it's worth. Leading receiver, no Malik Neighbors there. Darius Slayton stepped up big time. We probably should have been more on that, honestly. Just without Slayton, who was he going to throw the ball to? Or without Neighbors, who was he going to throw the ball to? Darius Slayton, the veteran, makes sense. 8 for 122 and a touchdown, 11 targets. He was a wide receiver 7 on the week. And then Wan'Dale Robinson, target machine at times. 9 targets, 6 for 36. He doesn't get a lot of yardage with his targets. Very short area targets, doesn't do much with it after the catch, but he did get in the end zone. So 6 catches, a long of 9, but he got in the end zone. So someone that should be rostered, especially in full PPR leagues. He was a wide receiver 19 on the week in half PPR with 13 points. Not a lot of upside, but he gets targets. So for whatever that's worth. And then on the other side, the Seattle Seahawks. Oh, also I just want to shout out Theo Johnson, rookie tight end, 5 for 48 on 5 targets. Rookie tight ends take a while to produce, but that's someone to monitor, especially in Dynasty. I have him in our Dynasty league, so I hope he works out. Geno Smith. I remember I played Justin Fields over Geno this week. Regretted it. I played Geno over Justin last week. Regretted it. So Geno and Justin are definitely giving me headaches, but Geno, quarterback 9 on the week, even in a loss, 28 of 40, 284, 1 touchdown, added 4 for 72 on the ground, though. So that was a big part of his production. Kenneth Walker. What the heck? He was only 5 for 19 on the ground. Fantasy football is so interesting. So against the Lions, he was the running back 2 on the week with over 30 points. And then against the Giants, he's the running back 21 with 11.1 points. So 5 for 19 on the ground. Luckily, he saw 8 targets, turned into 7 for 57. But couldn't get it going on the ground. No touchdowns, no big plays. Tyler Lockett was actually the leading receiver. 4 for 75 yards on 6 targets. Metcalf, 4 for 55 on 7 targets. A little bit disappointing there, but you're going to start him every week. JSN saw 7 targets, 4 for 31. Noah Fant at tight end. He's a streaming option, but only 3 for 24 on 3 targets. Then Zach Charbonnet was the clear backup at running back, 2 for 11 on the ground, 3 for 19 through the air on 5 targets. So surprise victory for the Giants there, but we got one more Sunday matchup to preview. Then we got the Monday game, Cowboys and Steelers. Very exciting game actually at the end. It was a bit of a slow start, but it came down to a 4th down conversion for the Cowboys to take the lead very late in that game, 4th and goal. They got it in. Pause. Dak to Jalen Tolbert. Cowboys hold on for the win. 20-17 in Pittsburgh. Both teams are 3-2. Dak Prescott, he put up 352 yards, 2 touchdowns, 2 picks. He was a quarterback 13 on the week. And then in the rushing game, Rico Dowdle is the lead back. It's official. 20 for 87 on the ground. Also 2 for 27 and a touchdown through the air. So if he's going to do that against the Steelers, I can't imagine what he's going to do in a good matchup. But running back 3 on the week with 18.4 points. I dropped him in Dynasty this offseason. thinking they would bring someone in. They bring absolutely nobody in except for Zeke and Dalvin Cook. So you're welcome, fantasy community. Because I did that, Rico Dowdle is your guy. So if you got him in like the 20th round, congrats. You have a good running back. Zeke was 6 for 17. Clearly the backup. 1 target, 0 catches. And then Jalen Tolbert was the leading receiver, 7 for 87 and a touchdown on 10 targets. Led the team in receptions, yards, and targets. CeeDee Lamb, 5 for 62, 9 targets. You're going to start him each and every week, obviously, but kind of a down game. Jalen Tolbert, he was the wide receiver 12 on the week with 18.2 points. CeeDee Lamb, the wide receiver 41, but like I said, start him. Just start him each and every week. Like, don't overreact. They're playing the Lions this upcoming week, it looks like. So that is great bounce back potential for CeeDee Lamb. Jake Ferguson was my other tight end start of the week, and he had a good game. 6 for 70 on 7 targets. I didn't really love the matchup, but he's very involved in this landscape. That's all it takes. Tight end 10 on the week with 10 points. We'll take that. And there was no Brandon Cooks in this game either, so that kind of opened the door for Jalen Tolbert to be more involved. On the other side of the field, Justin Fields, no pun intended, 15 of 27, 131 and 2 touchdowns, 6 for 27 on the ground, quarterback 16 on the week. It just didn't quite amount, not enough passing yardage, not enough rushing work, a couple passing touchdowns, but I was hoping for more. But Najee Harris, 14 for 42 on the ground, 2 for 35 through the air. This is the part of the year where Najee Harris just puts up gross stat lines, and then by the end of the year, he'll be a stud, but running back 30 on the week. No Cordero Patterson, no Jalen Warren. So Aaron Champlin got in there as the backup, 4 for 14 on the ground. Doesn't look like he had any passing game involvement from what I can see. So it was the Najee Harris show. Champlin did return kicks in this game, but yeah, you like the volume, 14 carries, but just didn't do much with it. Najee was the leading receiver with 35 yards, though. Van Jefferson was 3 for 26. You're not starting him. George Pickens, 7 targets, but only 3 for 26. He's a really talented player. I would say he's a buy low in Dynasty, but until he gets a really locked in electric quarterback, if that ever happens, it's going to be a struggle. Like, this team wants to play defense and run the ball. It's rough. And then Pat Freiermuth, 3 for 22 and a touchdown on 3 targets. But yeah, Pickens is very talented. It's just a quarterback thing and an offense thing, in my opinion. But they're, what's the Steelers' record? What did I say it was? 3-2, and they almost beat the Cowboys. So they're winning. Mike Tomlin always finds a way to win. And then last game, Kansas City Chiefs at home against the Saints. Chiefs obviously get the win. They win every game. They're 5-0. Chiefs and the Vikings are the only 2 undefeated teams remaining. They get the win 26-13 over the Saints, who are now 2-3 after that great start to the year. Patrick Mahomes continues to not really be great for fantasy. He hasn't been for a while. Quarterback 20 on the week, 28 of 39, 331, no touchdown passes, 1 pick, 6 for 22 on the ground. Kareem Hunt, add him to the list of players that I have dropped in Dynasty that were completely irrelevant. Couldn't have even traded them for like a 20, 30, 4th round pick. And now they're probably going to be great for fantasy. So he comes in off the street, second week with the team, second active game with the team, 27 for 102 and a touchdown on the ground. Kareem Hunt, everybody, 1 for 15 through the air. Your running back 4 on the week. I'm so mad at my Dynasty team. 18.2 points. So Clyde Edwards-Helaire will come back pretty soon, but I think Hunt is the guy you want there. Carson Steele is an afterthought, 5 for 12 on the ground. So yeah, until Clyde Edwards-Helaire comes back and maybe creates a bit more of a committee, it's Kareem Hunt. And then in the passing game, Juju led the way, 7 for 130 on 8 targets. I'm not telling you to pick up Juju, who was the wide receiver 14 on the week with 16.5 points, but with Rashee Rice, we don't know as of this recording how much time he's going to miss. If it's the whole year, most of the year, we don't know. but he's gonna be out for a while. So Juju might see more targets. You know, I expect it to be more of a thing where you don't know who to start between Worthy and Juju and Hardman and Watson and who's going to have the good game, or any of them going to have the good game. The one guy that's for sure, I think, going to see an increase in production is Travis Kelce. He saw 10 targets here, turned into 9 for 70. Tight end 7 on the week, 11.5. He's been putting it together lately, so it looks like he's back as a fantasy contributor, someone you should be starting every week for the most part, unless, you know, things take a turn again. But not the superstar he once was, but definitely should be started. And then Derek Carr on the other side of the football field, 18 of 28, 165, 2 touchdowns, 1 pick. He did leave that game early with an injury. Tough matchup in Arrowhead. Hopefully you weren't starting him. And then Alvin Kamara, he had a bit of a down week for his standards, and he was still the running back 26 with 9.6 points. So in a tough matchup on the road, bad game script, not a great performance, he still almost put up double-digit points. So if anything, this is a buy low opportunity. Obviously, if Derek Carr misses time, which I haven't heard any reports on that yet, honestly, that's going to affect the offense, he's expected to miss multiple weeks. So that could definitely affect Alvin Kamara. But with that being said, Kamara's whole thing is volume. It hasn't been efficiency recently. So, you know, Kamara, again, even in this game, 8 targets, 6 for 40. Jake Haener is going to be the guy that takes over for Carr for however long he misses. He was 2 of 7 for 17 yards in this one. Also had a 2 for 11 on the ground. So the offense could definitely sputter without Carr. I think Kamara is potentially a buy low, whether it's now or after a few weeks of bad offense. If we see some bad offense, he might even be more of a buy low for when Carr comes back. But it was rough. Chris Olave, 2 for 10, 4 targets, very disappointing. Rashid Shaheed hit a big 43-yard bomb, 4 for 86 and a touchdown on 9 targets. I guess Shaheed finished as the wide receiver 13 on the week with 16.6 points. Juwan Johnson, 5 for 31 on 5 targets, but Foster Moreau at tight end caught the touchdown on 2 for 13. So, yeah, Shaheed and Olave without Derek Carr. That's going to be a little bit gross. We're kind of seeing it with Tua and those Dolphins weapons. Quarterback is a big, big, big deal. Huge deal. But anyways, those are all of the week 5 matchups. I hope you enjoyed the podcast. Please make sure to follow or subscribe wherever you are listening. I will see you guys in the next one. We got some starts of the week coming up, a little bit of a preview for week 6. And yeah, make sure to follow or subscribe. Drop a like if you're on YouTube, or if you can like wherever you are enjoying the pod. I will see you guys in the next one. Peace out.